Welcome back to the Rugby Pod. Big Jim and Goodey are with me as usual. We'll be looking back at all the action from the Champions and Challenge Cup semi-finals. Then we'll be having a chat with one of Ireland's best pundits and former Leinster hooker Bernard Jackman. Plus, we'll be looking ahead to the penultimate round of the Premiership and the final round of the URC. So settle back, enjoy, and make sure you're subscribed on Spotify.
Pod. Rugby Pod.
How's your week been, lads?
All good.
Positive, Jim. Good start.
Was that positive?
Well, yeah. I was expecting. I'm looking at you, and I'm thinking you're going to say how fucked.
No, I'm a bit tired. I am, but I have said to Beck that I will not use the term tired in my vocabulary if I've been away working or if I've been burning the candle at both ends, which I haven't. But I was away working. I say work. I did the dinner that you did a few years ago that's been in the pipeline for a couple of years now at the Shoutouts RFC in Stratford-upon-Avon. I did that on Friday neat. Big shout out to them. Big shout out to Shoutouts Rugby Club, Andrew. I know you went there. They spoke really highly of you. And I enjoyed their company. It was one of them where it took me back, right? Not that my memories going back are amazing, but the feeling of an old school rugby club, like the heart and soul. And big shout out to Eugene, who is a legend. He's loose, but he's a legend.
He is pretty loose, isn't he?
He is pretty loose, but he is a legend, isn't he? He's one of them guys that's kind of, been a part of the club for a while. I sat next to him at the top table, but it was like at the top table in your mate's garage. Like, that's what it felt like. And I loved it. I like my mate's garage, by the way. Not that it was like a shithole. It was like, my mate's garage is a really nice garage if he had a garage. So it was like that, basically, at a rugby club. And bloody loved it. Back with the people. And they were a bit annoyed because I smoke bombed at what I thought was an admirable time in the morning, which was about 12:30. A bit of context for that, because I'm not Andy Power, right? I ain't going to a dinner and then getting paid to go to the dinner, spending all my fee, getting in at 4 a.m, getting abused while I'm in a taxi while someone's videoing it and then putting it online, and basically waking up darker than when I went to sleep. So that ain't me. I am in, do a job, have a few beers with the masses and try and get back. I mean, it was Beck's birthday, but I got called out. I got called out, and they had this sheet basically of the times of people that have spoken before, what time they leave, and basically people had to bet a fiver in terms of when they thought I was going to go back, and they'll get the money back next year. Apparently, I don't know how it works. Goody, you were down there as leaving at 12:30. I'm sure you drove last time.
No, mate, just went hard with the lads. Mate. Just for the masses, getting, as you said, down and dirty.
Well, Brian Moore, he was 10:30. I don't think he was on there, actually. I'm lying. But there was a few legends on there in years gone by that have been there. Tom Wood, apparently he stayed out to the early hours and he had a driver waiting outside for him. I mean, it is big time. Dylan Hartley, he went as well, but he left at 8:30. I don't even think he did it in the end. So I'm joking. He did. But no, it was good, actually. It was good to reconnect with the masses again. And big shout out to Shoutouts Rugby Club. And then Beck's birthday, talking about reconnecting. Beck's birthday on Saturday, went out for dinner, is what I'm saying. We connected over a bit of Mexican and went for a drink and told each other we loved each other, and that's the way that the weekend went. And that was it. Basically, just stopped there. That was it, Andrew. Before you ask any more, she got. I'm not that emotional. You know what I mean? She's looking for more love. She's looking for more energy from me in that part, but I just can't give it. But she got, "I love you," and I said it like this: "I love you," like that, and we had a good night Saturday.
I knew it was a special occasion, Jim, because it's not often that you'll put the missus on your social media, right? So obviously,
but celebrities don't do that, do they? They don't want to put their family out there, do they? Just all the time.
Oh, is Beck the celebrity, or is that you're talking about?
No, me in Indonesia. So,
oh yeah,
you just got to be careful, don't you? Because I don't really know them people in Indonesia. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's one of them where it's a bit weird. Like, most of my followers I know, but the ones that I bought in Indonesia, 40,000 of them, I don't really know who
you
they
bought
are.
80,000.
No, 40. I promise you I bought 40. That was it. And then I had to put a stop on it because it was getting ridiculous. It got like too stupid. So I didn't put it out there. But look, yeah, she's the love of my life. So I put her out there on social media when I'm feeling like, she needs to get out there. And the amount of people that are coming back are saying basically she's batting way above a station, then the other way around. It's a lot. It's a lot.
The case, is it?
No, it's not. No, I'm pretty hanging now, to be fair.
Goodey, how was your weekend, mate?
Long day Saturday. So I did the big one, Leon against Wasps for BT Sport. But it's kind of handy actually because we were in studio in Stratford, and then I was doing a dinner on Saturday night at Rochford 100 Rugby Club, the Rochford 100 Rugby Club based out near Southend-on-Sea. So I went to BT Sport, then I drove to Southend, had an ice cream or 3 on the beach. Beach is absolutely hanging compared to Dubai, let me tell you, in Southend.
No, it's not really.
Yeah, it is. And then I went to Rochford Rugby Club. Good people. And you talk about down and dirty. Nothing more dirtier than a curry that came out for us. Started off with the poppadoms, then some onion bhajis. They had a 3-course curry. Basically, it was a 2-course curry and a cheesecake at the end of it. So,
was it a
massive
lockdown dog curry or not?
Well, there was a beef masala, which could have been Alsatian. I don't know. I didn't touch it. I just went for the chicken. You can see it's white meat. It could have been
a poodle korma.
Yeah, it could have been a poodle korma. But there was an naan bread there as well, so I mopped it all up with that. But yeah, listen, it's great to get out into the junior rugby clubs, isn't it, and see the state of some of the people. I'm getting abused by one bloke. He's like, we did my speech and then we opened it up to a Q&A, and he's like, how heavy were you at your heaviest? I was like, fucking right now, son, how heavy are you? He was about 3 times the size of me and he's rinsing me. I'm like, come on, mate, have a look in the mirror, son. It was literally like the arsehole calling the armpit hairy, even though mine wouldn't do that because I use Veet. But yeah, it's good to be out there, isn't it, and seeing the different characters. So a massive shout out to everyone at Rochford Rugby Club, and I think I stayed there till 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't. I left it off. I left at half 12.
A lot's changed though in the last week. But obviously, in the last couple of years, 2022, there's a lot happening right now. However you look at it, if you look left, you look right, my kids being at school, they're coming home telling me stuff that I didn't know existed, but now does exist and is allowed to exist, which is fine. But it's a big apology, Andrew, because I've been saying stuff to you for the last few years. Well, since you were basically 16 and you lost your hair, I've been saying stuff to you that I did not realise would be taken in the way that it has been taken in some courts up and down the country. So I apologise if I ever called you bold. I mean, I don't know what to say because you were bold, so I don't know whether I can say that you used to be bold or how I contextualise that. But
we got HR, yeah.
Have we got HR?
Have we got a HR department here? I don't know. I mean, where do I send my complaint to? Because you've been calling me basically fat, bold, and arrogant. I'll take the arrogant.
Sexual harassment.
Like, I mean, don't trivialise it. My feelings have been damaged.
I'm sorry. So, I mean, I know I've dominated you a few times, but I'm really sorry if you're feeling that it went too far. So if you feel like going to HR, Harry Ronnie, as we call him, I don't know if you can say Harry in HR, then please do so. And I will have my tail between my legs, long old tail, and I'll say sorry. And if you want to take it further, then that's up to you, Andrew. But this is a heartfelt apology from an honest man.
I accept your apology. And over the weekend, you've learnt a lot, haven't you?
Are you got anything to say about my biscuit? Because I'm.
Well, you say you can't see it.
Can't say biscuit either.
You can't say biscuit. You can't say soggy biscuit. You can't play soggy biscuit. But what I do know is I've only said you're thinning, Jim. I haven't said you're bold.
Okay, that's fine then. Okay, that's fine. That's okay.
So not only have you told Beck that you love her this weekend and given her some big feelings and some big emotion and some big touching and all that stuff, a little touching really, I suppose.
I held a hand, Andrew. I held a hand, which is a lot.
In public? In public?
No.
Is that as far as the affection goes from Jim Hamilton? Just hold your hand a little bit.
I touched her on the shoulder and said, I'll have a Peroni at the bar. So that's the first time you've touched me all evening. Hey, I am what I am. I am what I am. What can I do?
You is what you is, yeah. And then you're apologising to me for being mean to me. So you're in touch with your feelings again, Jim. It's nice to see.
Well, I'll say why, because I'm vulnerable at the minute. I'm having an op on Friday, so I just don't know. You just don't know, do you? You just don't know. So I'm just putting everything out there on the line. So Andy Rowe, again, I mean, sorry about the cat food. I know you like the cat food, so I don't know whether that's a way in which you're going to need an apology. But if you don't like cat food, even though you do, I'm sorry that I said that you love cat food, because you might just like it and not love it.
Are you actually worried about this operation, Jim?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, Of course, I'm nearly 40. I'm nearly 40, you know? Nearly 40. Who knows what's going to happen when I go under the knife? Who knows?
Tell the masses what you're having done, Jim.
I'm having my throat slit open and then they're pulling something out. That's all I've been told. I know. It's proper. It's proper.
I thought you were getting your tags done or your whatever you were saying at the start of the year.
No, I'm going to get my tags done soon, but just not now. I just can't think. I'm seeing these horror pictures, and of Katie Price. I saw something on the Mail app, a really credible media platform. I saw her with no teeth. She had these things. I thought, Jesus Christ, I can't get my tags done. If they fall out, the kids are going to be horrified. But yeah, it's a rebuilding phase, and it's been nearly 5 years since I retired, and I've just come to the realization that I need to be better. I need to be better. I've got to be better for my kids, and I've got to hold Beck's hand. And part of that is operations. I'm just throwing money at it.
Well, some of the English clubs might think that they need to be better as well. None of them in any European final for the first time in almost a decade, Goodey. Is this a blip or is it a new norm?
Mate, the Blues are better than the Crusaders, so what? Why being horrible to English clubs?
We'll see.
I expected Saracens to go down to Toulon and win. I wasn't convinced that Wasps would go to Lyon and win. Both of them lost. And we haven't got any team in any final of either competition. But I think this year it's a bit of a blip. One thing that I found out the weekend, how good are Leinster, right?
Told you.
They are very good. Not only are they that good right now, they've got Ringrose and Henshaw in the centres. They think they've got to go and sign even more centres. They've signed Charlie Naitai from Lyon. I'm like, when does this stop? You've got about 700 players.
What do you mean they haven't got a salary cap? What do you mean? We know that. We've gone through it. Well, there's a balanced answer to it, though. This is the question that Andy Rose asked, and I think we are different on it because you're a guy, because you in this mould of tier, like you want to be a TMO, so you've got to play by the rules and abide by the laws. I'm different. I think throw money at it. And we've spoken about it before. In order to compete, you've seen it in football, you see it in NBA, you see it in NFL, you see it in all the top sports, the team top sports, all of them. In order to be successful, you've got to throw money at it. And people hate me saying that. But in answer to Andy Rowe's question, something we've spoken about before is on any given day, really now, if you're an English Premiership club, you shouldn't be competing with these top teams in France. And I know the semi-final, you could say that Worcester might have beat any of them teams on that day, the way that they played. But in general, now with Leinster, we've gone through the fact that they don't have a salary cap and we don't know how much they're paying players, but we know that it's a lot of money else players would then leave to go. They're just adding to it. No one leaves Leinster. No one, ever. So it shows you that it's a lucrative place to be, not only from winning stuff, but obviously getting paid. And we know that the French teams pay a load of money. So really, no one should beat them. And I don't think they will. I think it's only going to get worse. That's what I think. I think there's so many stresses now playing in the Premiership, and it might change because we've just come out of COVID, game on game on game on game that we've spoken about. And then obviously you've got the internationals going away and trying to rest them up. The fact is, and the likelihood is, you aren't going to be that successful in Europe. History tells you that, really, in the past few years, apart from Saracens, and we know why we think, or we know that Saracens have done well in that competition. Apart from that,
Exeter won it. Exeter, the last English team to win it, mate.
Yeah, and look where they are.
You forget that. You talk about Saracens, but you forget that Exeter, the last English team to win the Champions Cup.
Okay. Well, we won't get into Exeter. Why?
Why, Jim?
We're just not.
Go on, tell us what you know.
No, nothing. Well, look at Exeter now. So
they lost over 2 legs to Munster.
Okay, but we're talking about going forward, as in competitively every time. The French teams, Leinster, are in there in and around it every single year, and that's the point.
First time they've made a final for how long?
No, but in terms of the knockout stages, in terms of really competing, knocking at the door. Look at the Stars. So what? I'm saying to you. So Saracens are right. They're in the Challenge Cup. They could potentially, on their day, compete, as we know, even with the squad that they've got now. Who else, when you look at the Premiership, who else do you think, looking at it now and last year, because Quinn's obviously won it, who else do you think could compete with a Toulouse on their day, a Leinster on their day, a La Rochelle on their day, and Toulon, the way that they played in the Challenge Cup against Sarries? But in terms of the player profile, there ain't any. I can't see it. I can't pick a team in the Prem and be like, yeah, I think that they could compete.
It depends how you talk about it. So if you say on their day, no one can touch Leinster. When Leinster are on fire, they're an international rugby team. So I get that. So to me, Leinster are the standout team. I think Saracens, I think Exeter on their day, Harlequins on their day. Those three teams can compete with some of the other top teams in Europe. You look at that semi-final on Sunday where Racing are playing La Rochelle, it was absolute garbage, yet you've got some of the best players in the world on the field. Now, if you're telling me that some Premiership teams can't compete with that the way they played that day, I have to disagree with you. What I am saying is, and I completely understand your point, Jim, history tells us the team that spends the most wins the most. And in most sports, as you said, Jim, and you can go down the list, no doubt Leinster have got the biggest wage bill in Europe right now because of the amount of players they've got. So they are favourites to win it. But sport is also cyclical. So teams come and go. Look at where Leinster are now, and we're talking about them in terms of being the best team in Europe right now. They haven't been to a final since God knows when. So when you're looking at it like that, it's not like they're dominating every year. Now is their time, right? La Rochelle have got to the last two finals, so this year and last year. They've just come through. Racing have been in and around it for ages. Racing spent a silly amount of money, haven't won it yet.
But that's what I mean, in and about it, though. Yes, any given day a team can win, but I'm on about giving the opportunity to get that any given day.
Yeah.
Because it's the same teams that are doing the loops and doing the rounds.
I understand. But is that not what normally happens in cycles of sport? So go back to the Leicester heyday. Leicester and Wasps were the best two teams in England. Leicester won Heineken Cups. Wasps won Heineken Cups. Munster were the team. Leinster at the time were nowhere. Do you know what I mean? So sport is cyclical. What we're saying is around the English teams, the salary cap, and it's the age-old debate. Do we let clubs spend what they want? It makes the Premiership, a very topsy-turvy tournament where you'll have two teams at the top who spend the most, probably Saracens, probably Exeter, because they ain't bothered about the books. They're not bothered about making the game sustainable. And in doing that, other teams try and chase it, go bust, and then you have a 6 or 7 team Premiership league. And that then affects the quality of the Premiership, which is a knock-on effect to England, knock-on effect to the Champions Cup and all stuff like that. So I get it. There's no right or wrong answer.
On my point, no one can complain that there's no English clubs in any of the finals. I'm looking at it based on this season and the squads that we've seen and the teams that we've seen. There ain't anyone that can compete with them, well, clearly, as we've seen, because there's no one in the finals.
Going back to the original question, given everything you guys have just said, is this going to be the new norm, or is this just a blip in the radar that those English teams haven't made the finals?
You can make an argument for both, I think, can't you? If the new norm for you're looking at this Leinster squad, if they're not in the semi-finals and finals every year for the next 4 or 5 years because of the quality they've got within that squad, there's something seriously wrong there. They're so well coached. The amount of players they've got is ridiculous. The quality of the players they've got is ridiculous, and it will take something big to stop them being, the top 2 or 3 teams in Europe for the next 4 or 5 years. English clubs, Saracens come back into it next year. And we'll get on to Saracens later. They were absolutely off the pace at the weekend, at that level, and it was a bit of a shock to them, I think. Wasps as well. They were error-strewn. I think a team will bounce back. Harlequins will be licking their wounds from how they exited the competition this year. So there is, extra bounce back. English clubs will be there or thereabouts, but are we good enough to win it? Not right now.
What about Scottish clubs?
I mean, they've got probably less chance than the Italians. Benetton's probably got more chance than them.
Andrew, remember, you've been to Scotland. You were winning them over. Not anymore.
Well, let's talk about those French clubs that were in the La Rochelle Racing semi-final. What did you guys make of that one? A bit sloppy or what?
Shocking. A bit sloppy. It was like a game being played in slow-mo. It was awful. I'm thinking, why am I wasting my day watching this? Because it's my job, that's why. And really, when you say no team deserves to win, that sounds harsh, doesn't it? Really. And it wasn't just me who said that. I think it was Dave Flatman in the studio as well. Said the team that looks like they want to win the most or turns the pace on or just shows something will win this game. And as we know, La Rochelle in the second half, for anyone that watched it, that's exactly what they did. But in comparison to the Leinster, who were phenomenal, as we know, we'll get onto it, and Toulouse, who were really good in parts, it was like you're watching a different game. But, La Rochelle came through, and as we know, history tells us, last season tells us, that they're a team that can upset Leinster with a physicality. And maybe it is just the fact that you've got two French teams slugging it out. And that's when we spoke to Finn last week, it's kind of almost asked him that question. The games where you play against the other French teams in the top 14 and stuff like that, some of them are crap. When you watch the top 14, they really are. But as we know, when they want to turn it on, when there's something different at play, you're playing against an English club or a Leinster, an Irish team or whatever, they've got the ability to turn it on. But based on that, it was a really, really poor game. The big thing for me, and I have the hope, is that La Rochelle do turn up, because there's no doubt about it, quality players. But even Bottier, your mate, he comes up. I'm questioning what you would say is one of the greatest players playing the game at the minute. And I'm like, what are you doing, mate? This is ridiculous. As in ridiculously bad. But
so French.
I suppose that's what you get. That's what you get. And one of the things I found quite weird as well was that we had an English ref in a French game, even though it was Europe. But
well, this is the thing on this, and I'll be really clear on that. I've said it before. If you've got two French teams, you may as well let them have a French ref and let them get on with it in that sense, because they know each other so well. Tony Spreadbury, who's in charge of the European refs now, I think the mistake he made by putting Matt Carley involved. Matt Carley didn't speak enough French, whereas if you had or any, yeah. And it's a tough environment to be in. You had Luke Pearce run the touch, who, as we've seen, referee many French teams over time. He speaks the lingo really well. How's Wayne Barnes not refereeing as well? It's a European semi-final, and there's no English team in a semi-final. How's Wayne Barnes, one of the best referees in the world, not got a game? Where is Barnesy? Has he got his feet up already or what? So the best two referees in the world at the minute, or two of the top referees in the world at the minute, are Wayne Barnes and Luke Pearce, and neither of them were given a semi-final this weekend. And that's the big thing. Both of them speak French, speak it fluently. But for me, Jim's right. You look at that La Rochelle team, the way they played at the weekend, they ain't touching Leinster at all, are they? Leinster aren't watching that thinking, geez, how are we going to stop them? Because Leinster, all of a sudden, over the last 2 years, and probably, the Ireland team as well, since La Rochelle monstered them last year in that knockout semi-final, they've learned a hell of a lot. 2 words for you, Jim Hamilton. In Lon, or Lons, or however you say it was 30 degrees, summer rugby, and that's what you see.
Arguably could be right, because that is one thing we didn't speak about, and it's easy. I was horrendous at the best of times, but in the heat, I struggled in heat, and it looked like they were struggling in the heat. It did, but it didn't seem like the referees were sweating, so I'm basing it on that. So come on,
the two
teams, they're rubbish.
This is the thing, the 2 games out of the 4 semi-finals this weekend that I thought were of low quality, poor, were the 2 games played in 30 degrees of heat in France. Lyon against Wasps was an average game at best, and Racing against Lyon was even worse. And they were both playing 30 degrees of heat. And I go back to it. I go back to my time at Brive, right? And you played out in Montpellier, and you've been beating this drum, Jim, beating yourself, beating the drum around summer rugby, right? You must have played. Yeah, you must have played in France in August in the start of the top 14. My 2 first games for Brive, on my very first season there, we played Toulon away in 35 degrees of heat on a Saturday afternoon. And then we played Perpignan away midweek. So we had start the French league, absolutely ridiculous. Toulon away on the coast, 35 degrees. It was 6-3 to Toulon. It was the worst game of rugby ever because no one could catch or pass it. It was sweaty. I must have lost 6 kilos, so I was down under 110 by then. It was happy days. And then we played Perpignan on the Wednesday. Again, ridiculous heat. So there is something to be said around summer rugby, but not in ridiculous conditions like that and ridiculous temperatures. So, Jim, you need to wind your neck about it, mate, because if that's the product, we need to go back to the winter.
If you're basing it on that, I'll reconsider. If you're basing it on that semi-final, I'm happy to say, make it a blizzard.
What did you guys make of Toulouse in the other semi-final? bit overwhelmed by Leinster, or were they tired from the week before, or what do you think?
The train. That was it. They literally got run over. And it's easy to pick things out that guys like Brian O'Driscoll and Warburton talk about on commentary around the ruck speed, but that was the number one thing, the difference between, the two games, obviously, but Leinster in terms of their relentless play, their physicality, their skill set. You know, Ty Furlong tweeted it, as a million other people did, that pass. I mean, it just looks impossible to defend. I tell you what, they are so good to watch. So good.
Yeah. And looking at it, you talk about, was it the Toulouse team were low on energy or whatever? It's been coming for Toulouse, hasn't it? You know, we talked about their form in the top 14. You know, we saw them play against Ulster. They lost at home. They just scraped through, you know, at the Kingspan Stadium. That was coming. Leinster are on a absolute different path to where Toulouse had been. And Johnny Sexton, 42 years of age, and he is leading the charge. Just class, absolute class. Okay, Toulouse aren't the Toulouse that we've seen previously at the minute. You know, I'm hearing there's some issues behind the scenes and fallouts with coaches.
Where? Who?
Hugo Moller. You know, there's, you know, I heard the other week Hugo Moller's having a big row with some of the Canal Plus pundits and stuff like this. There's a few issues there from what I understand. And I don't know whether it's because they had so much success last year doing the double to now there's the expectation and pressure builds and all this stuff. But my God, Leinster, you can't take anything away from them and say that Toulouse weren't at it. Leinster were ridiculously good.
One of the things the French teams need to change, and it's quite an obvious one for me, they need to get the coaches up in the box and looking down. How can you watch anything from the side of the pitch? Football's different because there's more space, right? And a lot of the football coaches have been players and it's all around feeling space, I think. Well, I imagine so. That's what Cantona told me in Madrid. But why is he not in the box? Why is he not looking down? He's got the laptop next to him so he can replay, so tactically he can be looking at things.
He loves the camera.
There you go.
Jim, you mentioned Tadhg Furlong's pass before. Let's talk a little bit more about that. Have you ever seen a pass better from a prop?
I haven't, no.
It doesn't have to be a prop either. Let me tell you now, it doesn't have to be a prop. I wouldn't have been able to throw that pass even in my heyday.
Hey, I tell you what, this bloke on Twitter, don't let him hear you saying that, because he's going mad, because he's like, everyone should be able to pass. Like that, everyone should be able to pass. All right, mate. Okay, he might be right, actually. He might be right. One of the big things for me, I played down in New Zealand when I was a young lad in 2005. And it's quite an obvious statement, right? And people will be listening to this and they'll be thinking, it's a ridiculous statement. When I was there, the skill set to a man, to a boy, to a young lad was like something I'd never seen. And in terms of what I mean by that was their catch and pass, was their ability from 1 to 15, whoever was on the bench, and their family, and their mums and dads, and the dogs as well, that could literally pass off both hands, just did it, right? And also tackling. They could all chop tackle, just literally chop, chop, chop. The two basic skills you need of rugby, right? So chop tackle and passing a rugby ball. They're the two things, which sounds ridiculous. But if you look at teams over the last few years, there's teams that can't do that. There's teams, I've been in teams, I couldn't do it. I could not pass. I couldn't.
Mate, you ran a hell of a decoy line, though.
But then it came off my head, which actually isn't a knock-on. And I'm fuming that was given as a knock-on a few times. It shouldn't be. But Sarri's changed the mould a little bit. And I remember there was a game against Toulon over there where Mako and George Cruz were whipping these passes out, and I was a decoy runner. But Ireland are the one now, which have obviously been looking at New Zealand like we all have in terms of their skills. And they've managed to add a different layer onto that. And I'm coming back to my point with Furlong. As much as we all think that everyone should be able to pass like that, it's not easy. And you look, I mean, Johnny Sexton's one. Obviously, Finn Russell's another. Ty Furlong, he's another that can do it. It was a ridiculous pass. And that is the point around the skill set, around that you can put anyone in that position from Leinster, maybe not anyone to do that pass, but anyone at the line to be able to do the skills in around the contact area or take contact. That is the point of difference. And I tweeted about Ross Maloney as well, this young second row. It's all been around James Ryan, hasn't it? It's been about Ryan Beard.
Young, though.
How old is he?
28.
Oh, mate, it's 10 years younger than me. That's bloody young.
But this is the thing. So I looked into him like, geez, he's some hell of a player, thinking he was a youngster. Found out he's 28. He hasn't started a Heineken Cup game for 5 years. I'm like, well, in my mind, and it goes back to your point, Jim, no one leaves Leinster. I'm like, imagine a player that good not getting a Heineken Cup game for 5 years. You're going somewhere else, aren't you? You're leaving and you'll go into
not if you paid $500,000. Not if you paid $500,000.
There we go. There we go. He's, I mean, a hell of a player, hell of a performance. And actually, when you talk about skill level, and I said it before, how he's taking the ball to the line and producing the skills that he's doing while running that speed, either playing short ball, carrying, and making those decisions in split seconds at the line, or putting the ball out the back to Sexton or Ringrose or Henshaw, or whoever's on that little loop play. It's just, a different breed of rugby player now.
Well, we can get probably a little bit more of an insight into that Leinster skill set and how they develop it now. We can have a chat now with former Leinster hooker and European Cup winner back in 2009. Bernard Jackman joins us. How are you, mate?
Yeah, all good, lads. Very happy after Leinster's win.
I bet you were, Bernard. We were just talking before you came on around how any team can compete with a Leinster or a top 14 team, a team in which you've played for, but also coached in the top 14 as well. Are you sitting on billions of pounds now because that's how much you were paid as a Leinster player?
I wish. No, I'm having to work for a living. I think Leo Cullen's the man who should be sitting on millions of pounds. In fairness, his legacy, and I know it's not over, is incredible. If they win next week, he'll have won five European Cups, which is phenomenal. And his DNA, and you know him, you both know him. He's just so steady. He never gets flustered. And when you're dealing with so many internationals, and there's not really a lot of egos, but there is a lot of egos. He manages them really well, and the way he was as a player, he wasn't always away with Ireland, so he knows what it's like to be the journeyman who has to step aside when the internationals come back. So I think he's got a huge amount of he deserves a huge amount of credit. And then also the way he brought Stuart Lancaster in and let him coach, he was phenomenal. So you've got two brilliant guys driving us, and then the players aren't bad either.
Yeah, certainly are. We'll get into the crux of the players in a minute, but just talking about the game, let's go back to the game first.
Yeah.
And talking about how they monstered Toulouse. Did you see it being that comfortable? Because it really was a comfy day at the office, wasn't it? It was like a URC game where you expect Leinster to rock up and win. Most games at the Aviva go that way for Leinster, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And look, I like my horses. Unfortunately, I'm not that good at them. But if you're a horse racing fan, you would say, Toulouse beat Ulster by a point. They went to extra time against Munster, and realistically, Leinster are 10 or 12 points better than both those. But yeah, you saw the quality Toulouse had, and you just think they're the champions. Semi-final, it's going to be close. But that 2-week break that Leinster gave those players when they sent the squad to South Africa, I think that was brilliant. I mean, they've just come out of the blocks against Leicester really fast. Pretty much had that game won at halftime, 20-0 up. And likewise against Toulouse, even though they conceded the first try, I mean, Toulouse would have been wondering what the hell was in front of them. Just were so accurate until Gibson Park tried that kick through. And then they just didn't bat an eyelid, just went back at him again and just were ruthless. So, no, I didn't think Toulouse. I thought Toulouse would be better. But having said that, I think you look at Toulouse this year, they're trying to understand how to manage having 10 players away. The top 14 this year is ridiculously tough. I mean, Toulouse, Racing, La Rochelle are all fighting to still make top 6. There's been no chance to take a breath. And and also I think Toulouse were naive in terms of trying to play Leinster at their own game, and I think O'Gara and La Rochelle will have learned a lot from that, because you can't let Leinster play or try and play them at their own game, which is high tempo, because only one team will be fit enough to go deep in that.
And Bernard, why are Leinster so good at the minute? And put your coach's hat on, but also, again, by the way, loving your social media, the little clips that you're putting up around the nuances of the game. What are you picking up? Because a superficial place where I put stuff on social media to try and get a few likes or whatever is around individual players, around them taking the ball to the line. I know that me and you interacted on social media, but can you give us a snapshot of how they've become so good, which feels like overnight?
Yeah, it feels like overnight, but realistically, and this is the challenge, like Leinster have been going into the last 3 European Cup campaigns looking $1 million. And that's the best performance they put on a European stage for a long time. But they got caught by Saracens, a Saracens team that were playing the championship, because mainly around scrum, and that was their entry point of the game. La Rochelle last year away, they got caught by Power. but they do look to have taken it to a different level. And I think it's the detail around their attacking game. It's Gibson Park now looking like he's in the top 3 nines in the world, whereas 2 years ago he was fighting it out with Luke McGrath. Sexton is imperious, but it's their speed of ball, and Ireland and Leinster's ruck ball was very good under Joe Schmidt. So for 7 or 8 years, Ireland and Leinster have been very focused on the ruck technique breakdown, but now their attacking shape is giving them softer shoulders, and their ruck is still very, very effective, very aggressive. You know, you look back at that game in detail, there's a lot of Leinster clearouts which are bordering on illegal, but because everybody's doing it at the same time and the ball is gone, referees don't really, they're just happy the ball is still going. So their breakdown technique for a team who aren't that big is violent. It's violent. They get the right bodies to the ball, but also because their attacking shape is good, they're not getting hit by 2 men, and they're getting those little soft shoulders. So then their kicking game, I mean, no one talks about their kicking game, but their kicking game is phenomenal, and they vary that in both halves. So first half kicked long a lot, kept it on the field. Toulouse kicked it back to them on the field, and then they just break into counterattack. And then the second half, they put in kind of more contestable, shorter kicks, and they're just very accurate. And you know, the biggest thing they have over everyone else is their second team. If their second team are in the URC, I think they could be top 6, right? So when they train on a Tuesday or Tuesdays, I mean, they're getting tested by another team, whereas most teams, let's be honest, they only really find out on Saturday, you know, if what they're doing is working or not. So they probably have the advantage of having more competitive trainings than most teams.
Jim mentioned you with the coaches out there. My God, you should be coaching still, mate. Look, the detail that you've got in there is phenomenal.
Mate, I tried that, but I got sacked twice, so I'm not going back.
Hey, Bernard, let's put it out there, though, mate. You were at the Dragons, so it doesn't matter who they bring in. I wasn't the first, and won't be the last. But no, it's all good. I'm happy selling IT advice, mate.
Yeah, nice. One of the players I want to talk to you about, and we spoke about him just recently on the pod, is Ross Maloney. Like, you talk about the ball skills and the level that players are taking it to, just how square his shoulders are at the line. Who is responsible for all that in coaching? Is it Stuart Lancaster? Is it Felipe Competence-Fomi? Because I played with Jim. Jim couldn't catch or pass. Now you're looking at a second row, Ross Maloney, who is just tearing up trees in terms of being able to pull the ball out of the back, not even looking where Sexton is. It is a ridiculous skill, right?
Yeah, it's a ridiculous skill, and I mean, they just have players who can do it across the board. And I mean, people talk about Furlong's pass. All of their forwards are multi-skilled. They do a lot of 15v15, which everyone does, but you know, they're very hard. They're very hard in how they review. There's big pressure on players to develop. And Ross Byrne, I coached Ross Byrne in school. He was on the same schools team as Dan Levy, Ross Maloney. He was on the same schools team as Ross Byrne, Dan Levy, Keane Kelleher, etc. And he wasn't a star, but he is just, as Leo Cullins, I spoke to him about Ross 2 weeks ago before they played Connacht, and he said he's the glue of that team, because every week he's just there. He's getting better. His attitude's brilliant. And his collision work has come on leaps and bounds. Like, I mean, you know, probably 3 or 4 years ago, you would have feared for Ross Maloney against a pack that size. But, I mean, he didn't take a backward step. His line-out's very good. He's a line-out caller. Plus, as you said, the way Leinster play with that 3 men off 9 and 2 men off 10, I mean, you need somebody who's very comfortable, who can stay square and then pull it back or play the tip on at the right moment or carry. And I mean, I think we've seen it over the last year, but that was on the big stage. And he's been in a few Irish squads, but has never got capped. He's EQP actually.
Is he? We'll have him.
No, I know Rob Baxter. You know, Rob Baxter saw something in him when maybe people in Ireland didn't, and was interested, which is a good sign. But yeah, I think he'll get capped for Ireland this summer. And yeah, he's waited, has been patient, as most Leinster players do. They very rarely go looking elsewhere unless they really can't get game time. But now hopefully you get a chance to play in a final and maybe win one.
You're talking about the skill set of the players. Everyone's talking about them, how well coached Leinster are. And there's a few whispers now. I don't know where they've started. I don't know where they'll finish around Lancaster potentially going back and getting the England job. I don't think he should. I think that ship's passed for him. But who am I to say? What do you reckon? Like, we're talking about what he's done at Leinster. It seems to be phenomenal. And anyone you speak to.
Yeah. Look, I think unless he wants to go back into international, will he get an international job if he wants one? Absolutely. Will he get the right job? So what's the right job at the moment? It's probably in the Northern Hemisphere, it's France, England or Ireland in terms of having the cattle to be able to win things. Just at the moment, the way, you know, Wales and Scotland are a little bit off. And obviously Italy are a long way behind. So I don't think could he go back to England? Maybe he wants to scratch that itch and prove that he could do it. I don't think it's a better club job in Europe than Leinster. I know Racing are talking to Eddie Jones. Matt Racing might pay a bit. They probably pay a lot more, but in terms of going to work every day, having 40 players who will hang off every word, having a really good culture, having good people to work with, having stability at the board level. Like Leinster's CEO is changing this summer. He's been the CEO there since professionalism started. You don't get that consistency many other places. So, but obviously he's not home. He's living in Ireland. His home is England. So I don't know, but I think it'd have to be a job that he really wants to prove a point in, or that he can go and be competitive at European level again, because you're pretty much guaranteed to be competitive at European level in Leinster, even when they're on a bit of a downward cycle.
And what about how much these lads are getting paid? Not numbers, but you having been a coach, been over in France, and it's the big question mark. We had Martin and I on the podcast, and I asked him outright. I was like, how much is the salary cap in the URC? What's Leinster's salary cap? And he said there ain't one. Now, it's almost a quiet rumour out there, isn't it, that the IRFU can kind of pay what they want. Have you got any insight? Would you be able to share insight into that?
I think, to be honest, I don't know what it is, because the way the IRFU do their books, it's very hard to work out what each province gets. But I've no doubt it's bigger than any of the French clubs. You know what I mean? And probably 2 or 3 million more, because my understanding of it is that they actually are sticking to the salary cap now, which they weren't, 4 or 5 years ago. There was a lot of close breaking it. So I think the salary cap is the fact that Leinster don't have a salary cap is a big help to Leinster. But, my counter argument to that is, look, they're quite good at getting big crowds in. They're quite good at getting good sponsorship, and they are producing a lot of players for Ireland, and a lot of them are homegrown. So it's not really, again, I'm biased. I'm from Leinster, but I think if you make a salary cap for the URC, it's going to be very hard to enforce. And you're just basically risking teams like Leinster, who've developed a lot of homegrown players, losing to Japan or losing to, an English club to be a marquee player for a couple of years. So, and this argument came from Wales, actually, that there should be I saw someone, David Butchers, who I respect a lot, the Dragons chairman, he said it should be a salary cap for the URC. But I just think that's allowing clubs who don't harness the commercial side of things just compete. You know what I mean? Like, professional sport is about survival of the fittest. It should be, everyone trying to get money into the team, and also the players. I mean, if you have a salary cap, it affects players, chances of making a good living. So I do think they're breaking it, and it is an unfair advantage, but I think that they deserve to have the right to pay the players what they want.
When you say breaking it, what do you mean breaking it?
Sorry, I mean, there is no salary cap in Ireland, but I mean, sorry, what they spend exceeds the salary cap in France, which is obviously exceeds the salary cap in the Premiership. And, and we know that there's no salary cap in Scotland or Wales, but it's just they don't have enough money to be at the salary cap levels. That's what I mean. Sorry, there's no salary cap, but they exceed the spend of the French clubs.
Before you go, Bernard, Matt, I've got to ask you again. Why are you not coaching? Let's not go based on the Dragons, right? Because even if you're Warren Gatland, the likelihood is they're finishing near the bottom, even within. But with Grenoble, and maybe give us some stories about what happened there, because we're listening to you. And again, I'm not just pumping up your tyres. You might want them deflated slightly. I'm not too sure. But the stuff that you put out there and the way that you speak, you obviously know the game inside out, right? So that is an obvious thing. Why would you not want to get back into coaching? Was it that bad when you were at Grenoble, or what?
No, Grenoble. We had 4 really good years in Grenoble, and then it just went pear-shaped, and that happens in France. So I was very lucky, and I love the game, but I kind of have the best of both worlds at the moment in that. So my daughter's 15, my son is 13. They're in secondary school in Ireland. I've got a good job, career job, which I'm kind of doing okay in. I go to matches weekends with Premier or RT and talk about it. So I'll tell you what happened. I went, 2 years, or when I was coaching Dragons, I came to Dublin. We lost 50 points to 15, right? And I was going, oh my God.
Which is good. That's good.
Yeah, that's
a win. That's a win, mate.
My son was the ball boy. It was embarrassing. And it stayed with me for about a month. After I got sacked, I went back and did a match for Premier, CoCom. Same match, Leinster Dragons. Leinster beat them, 45, 50 points. I put down my I put down my headphones. I hopped in my car. It was Dean Ryan's problem. You know what I mean? and that's the reality. So coaching is brilliant if you can get the right team, but I think for me at the moment, stability for my family, trying to prove I can do something else. But I still love it. I absolutely love it, and I would love to get back into the game at some stage. And I coach a club called Bective, which is a local club, and I get my buzz out of that. So I'm actually probably more in the game now than I was, but not doing it for a full-time job.
Bernard, thank you very much for coming on, mate. It's been class to hear your analysis and insight, and keep tweeting as well.
Oh yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Bye bye.
Thanks,
cheers,
mate.
Bernard.
Really, really
thanks,
good.
Mate.
Legend.
Thank
you.
Look, bye bye.
Cheers, buddy.
Top bloke.
Top bloke. Yeah, he really
so
is.
Good. So good. Could listen to him all day.
Yeah, that's what makes him an unbelievable pundit, though, because he knows so much detail around it, and he's really good at his job. Lovely bloke. But you speak to it's one of your best mates is a coach, right? And one of your best mates is a team manager. Jordan Murphy was one of my best mates. He was a coach. When you chat to those boys when they're in the job, and then when we rock up on match day and just do a bit of media or do some comms or whatever, Jordan Murphy used to say to me, "I hate it when you come to Leicester." I'm like, "Why?" "Thanks, mate. I'm looking forward to seeing it." He's like, "Because you come, you have a laugh, you're so relaxed, you try and have a laugh with me." He goes, "I'm so stressed, my hair's falling out. It's a horrible job sometimes, coach, isn't it?" And that's what Bernard said then. Like, imagine him going back to Dublin as the head coach of the Dragons and beating Leinster by only having 50 put on them. That's as good as a win for the Dragons. But then he says it a year later, Dean Ryan, it's his responsibility when they had 70 put on them. It's, and I get it. People say to me, I was at dinner on Saturday. People go, "Why, you should be in the game, you should be coaching, all the knowledge." I'm like, "No, I don't want that stress, boys."
No one said that to me. No one's ever said that to me.
I have. You should be the line-out guru at Saracens because their line-out is garbage.
Oh, it is, yeah. I tell you what, I would like, and I have thought this, and I've not told Beck yet, so I'll speak quietly, but I would like at some point, like a New York, or you see the lads over in LA, like the MLR, or maybe Texas or something like that kind of level.
For how long?
I don't know, just for 6 weeks.
Just 4 months.
6 weeks. I'll be happy with that. Yeah. No, I love him. Bernard Jackman.
Bernard's a great bloke.
Well, maybe you could get a job leading into the 2031 World Cup, Jim. See, they've been awarded the World Cup, and so is Australia for 2027.
I have. Huge for USA, that is. And we're all hanging our hat and our slippers and our dirty jock straps as well. Who wears jock straps now? I bet the lads in the USA team do. Old school, eh? A few years behind.
Some of the ex-wrestlers would.
Very true. Do they wear jock straps?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a game changer in terms of the lead up to the USA World Cup. And again, I know you just mentioned the Australia one, then love it as well. But the one in 2031 is the one that I'm looking forward to. I mean, how old am I going to be there? Old. I'm going to be old. Andrew, not as old as you, but
I'll be 51. I'll be 51 when.
Oh my goodness!
51 years old. Mate. 9 years time. Jesus, that is a lot.
Anyway, it's not about us. It's not about how old we're going to be and how we're going to look.
It is because we're available for any media, any previews that anyone wants, any build up to the World Cup. We're credible media, Jim. Do you reckon this podcast will still be going in 9 years' time?
I doubt it. If I'm getting called out for calling you bold, and there's a few, as in if you can't do that now, then they're going to go through the archives, and I genuinely think Cancelled. I'll be on mute. Yeah,
cancelled.
Completely done. So, no, big shout out to USA Rugby. Spoke to the CEO not so long ago, an English bloke, Ross Young, I think his name was, and that was obviously big for them. They've got a few things to get through, but as we know, Australia, we effectively, by giving them a shout out on the podcast, got them that gig.
We did.
And yeah, so somewhere hot, which would be nice. Summer rugby, eh? As always, we've got a few shout outs. First one's a good one close to my heart. It's my sister. So a big shout out to you, Sarah, and your mate Amy. They're doing a swim marathon of 6.2 miles, or, which they actually are doing, 400 lengths of a swimming pool. Oh, my glory. Mate, tell her face that. She looked like Andrew. She looked like you after a 3-dayer. Mate, oh, my red plus. So she's been training for that. Yeah, and the money that they're raising is going in memory of their friend whose son passed away from cancer at the age of 7. It's for his Pass the Smile charity. It's a great cause. If you want to find out more, just search Amy and Sarah's swim marathon on Just Giving. And if you want to help them out, that'd be greatly appreciated personally from me.
Yeah, massive good luck to Amy and Sarah. And another shout out to a father and son duo in Neil and Derek Young. I wonder who the son is. I wonder who the father is. Derek's got to be the older one, right?
Derek, definitely. I mean, if you're a young lad called Derek, then you ain't happy with your dad, Neil, are you?
No. But Neil and Derek, between them, have served as chairman and bar manager of Redcar Rugby Club for over 35 years. They're stepping down after a hell of a shift together. So enjoy the retirement drinks, lads.
Well, if they're both older, then Derek's fine. Do you know what I mean? But if you're 21 and your name's Derek, which you can't be because 35 years would mean they're not 21. Anyway, good luck, lads, and well done. Yeah, last one from me. We know them well, Andrew, and they're doing great things on June the 3rd and 4th. I don't know how. And some other former Leicester Tigers legends, including Backy, Freddie Tuolangi, and Martin Corrie, my old bush. They'll be joining the Mad Dog 100 cycle. More than 100 miles to raise money for the Leicester Royal Infirmary. So just search Mad Dog 100 on Just Giving to get involved with that. Dino!
Can you imagine Dino's nutsack on a bike? Biggest thing I've ever seen in my life.
He's getting old now, though, so you don't know which way. I don't know whether it heads north or south. So
they'd be bigger, mate. They'd be bigger, droopier and bigger.
Yeah, maybe just tie them up. I don't know. I'm not old, Andrew. I don't know how it works.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Goodey. Thanks, producer Tristan, and thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube and make sure you're subscribed on Spotify.
Rugby Spot.
The pod.